Hope you enjoyed the song.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. We're thrilled to share with you the latest and greatest about files in the M365 ecosystem with innovation from OneDrive and document libraries. My name is Arwa, and I'm a partner group product manager leading our OneDrive Experiences team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gaia, and I lead the product team for OneDrive Sync on Windows and Mac.
Hi, everybody. I'm Arvind, and I'm a principal PM architect on the team responsible for growth and engagement. I'm also a co-host of the Sync Up podcast, if we have any fans in the audience, with the amazing Stephen Rice. So we've got a great show for you today. Arwa and Gaia are going to come back up in just a few minutes to cover the second and third parts of today's show. Let's see. I want to say one thing before we get this thing started here. We have a lot of content to go through. We are probably going to go all the way to the end of 45 minutes, so we're not going to have enough time for Q&A. But what we are going to do is hang out outside after this, and we will hang around and answer as many questions as we can. We'll also be at the booths all week. So hopefully between today and the rest of Ignite, you'll get all your OneDrive questions answered. OK, so with that, I want to kick things off. I can see there's a lot of people in here. How many people out there have been using OneDrive for 10 years? Let's say either, OK, wow. OK, cool. Keep your hands up just for a second. I'm just trying to get a lay of the land here. How many of you have been using it for 15 years? Keep your hands up. Oh, wow. OK, that's more than I expected. OK, keep your hands up. How many of you have been using it for 20 years? Wow, OK, so that was a trick question because we haven't actually been around for 20 years. We've only been around for about 18. But sir, what's your name over there? Vic. Vic, you seem like a really big fan because you've been using it for about 15 years. OK, so I was going to ask you, actually, it had a different name when the product first started. Do you remember what it was called? It was not called Group, but I will give you a Sync Up beanie just for that answer. It was not. It was. What's that? It was actually called SkyDrive before. So before it was. Yeah, it was like it was called SkyDrive is what I would say. But anyways, let's get Vic Sync Up hat there. Thank you for participating. So Vic and all of you that were chiming in, you all will remember the first generation of OneDrive. OneDrive original promise was that you could take your files, store them in the cloud, and then you could access it through your browser or any device that you chose. That was generation 1. Generation 2 was all about syncing your desktop and your documents folders and flashing the screen like that. But no, that wasn't OneDrive. That's technical issues here in the room. And we also introduced collaboration with Office. So all those great collaboration features that we all depend on today, they were introduced in that wave. Now, in the third generation of OneDrive, OneDrive is kind of the file experience for all of M365, right? So if you go into OneDrive, or you go into Teams, or you go into Outlook, that same file experience that you see across the ecosystem, well, that's all OneDrive. And of course, all of this is built on top of SharePoint's rock-solid reliability, security, and compliance. I mean, I don't have to tell you all, because you all know, your fans, but OneDrive is supported by and used, and SharePoint as well, it's used by 94% of the Fortune 500. It's hundreds of millions of small businesses, and over 500 million individual users every single month depend on OneDrive. So with that, where do we go from here? Well, in this next generation of OneDrive, I want you to think a little bit holistically about what the experience could be, right? Going from a place where it was just a thing where you stored your files in the cloud, it's now transitioning into a place through the power of AI and Copilot. It's transitioning into a place where your work gets started. Additionally, we also have a new icon. This is an icon after many series of great icons. This one is lighter. It's more efficient. It's something that we hope to convey in this next generation. And so when you think about this next generation of OneDrive, OneDrive is all about being built for team flow. It's in the middle of all your collaboration flows. It makes collaboration a cinch. It's also got personalized intelligence because that's where everything is going these days, and it helps you get your work done faster. You can compare, you can summarize, you can analyze, you can create, all within inside of OneDrive without even leaving it. And of course, it's always on, always ready. It makes finding your files a cinch, and whether you're on any platform of your choice, you can find stuff and organize your files so easily. So with that, I'm going to cover the first area, which is how it's built for TeamFlow. And there's 3 areas in here. OneDrive promotes seamless collaboration. It promotes secure sharing and team alignment. Because if you're all on OneDrive and your team is working on OneDrive, not only can you work faster, but you can also work better and smarter and do more. And so with that, I want to introduce you to, actually before that, I actually want to share some metrics. When it comes to collaboration, OneDrive powers the sharing experience for 64 apps across M365. Like that sharing dialogue that you see across the ecosystem, that is OneDrive. And every month, there's about 1.2 billion share actions that are happening across all of our surfaces and customers. And of course, all of this has been built on SharePoint, and it's been around for 10 years. This link-based sharing that SharePoint introduced 10 years ago has been around, and it's been built, this experience has been built through all the feedback that you all have provided us throughout the years. But of course, I would say, even though like you've been providing us this feedback, you all know that there's a ton of it that we couldn't act on because, well, the platform was 10 years old. So today, we're excited to introduce the biggest change to our sharing model in 10 years for M365. It's making sharing simple, smart, and secure. It's simple because we're introducing the concept of a hero link. This single link controls all access to a file. And it's the same link that you use for address bar sharing or dropping into Teams or email. All the permissions go with that link wherever that link goes, right? Second, it's also smart because we start with a very simple level of permissions, and then as you deem necessary, you can layer on more permissions. And then finally, it's also secure because it provides a level of transparency where you can always see who has access to a file, but not only that, you can see the level of permissions really easily that anyone has on your file. So that transparency creates security. So let me show you what we've built. Okay, so I will bring up my account here. And you can see this is just your normal OneDrive web experience. And I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing this document called the Best Market Strategy Document Ever. I authored it, so. OK, so you see the dialogue. It seems pretty simple. We start by asking the very simple question of who do you want to share this with? And I'm going to share it with Arwa, who I guess is now a president, and Gaia. Oh, you guys are also presidents? Like, I missed the memo, I guess. I should have been a president as well. And I'm going to hit add, and there you go. It's straightforward. It's sharing to both Gaia and Arwa with this specific permission where only they have access to the file at this point. Now, let's make it a little bit more complex. I'm going to go ahead and add my friend Stephen Rice, again, co-host of the Sync Up podcast. And he is, if you notice, he's external to this tenant. We're in a demo tenant called Relic Cloud. And I'll select his name. And there's a little speed bump there. It says, hey, do you want to share with somebody that's external to your organization? And I'll say, yeah, Stephen's kind of a nice guy. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And I'll add him there. And one thing that you'll notice is when I look at all the people that I'm sharing with, there's now a little tag for Stephen where it says external. OK, so down here, you can see this document only provides access to these individuals. But I want to test that out. OK, so let's do this. I want to introduce you to my alter ego. His name is Denivra. He is evil. He spells his name backwards. And this is him. He's there. He's a president, too. This is ridiculous. Like, faster than Arvind. Haha, that's funny. OK, let's go ahead and... So Denivra is in a conversation with Arwa and Gaia in a Teams message, a Teams session or whatever, and they happen to drop the link to the document into that chat session. Denivra gets it, and he goes ahead and he pastes it into his browser, and he says, haha, I've got access to your document, and he does not. So he can't just take that link and post it in there because it's locked down. And I will say we've also updated the denied access or request for access screen. That's just a nod to our design team that's focused on craft and improving this whole experience. So Denivra, unfortunately, doesn't have access, but maybe it's fortunate because he's not a nice guy. But he does come to me later and he says, hey, you know what? I actually do need access to this to get my work done. So I'm going to go in and I'll change the permissions here to anyone in Relic Cloud, okay? And so let's go ahead and copy that link. There's a small thing that I have to demo around here because a bug showed up this week. So I'll hit copy link, and actually then I'll just go back to the original link here. I'll hit refresh, and there you go. He has access. So that's one hero link to completely control access to this particular file. Okay, let's move on. I want to show you a little bit more of the powerful experience that this is. Let's say you have a document that's been shared with a lot of folks. And so it might look like this. There's a ton of people in there. You can imagine maybe there's even more, and it's really hard to keep track of all the people and all their permissions. But well, one way you can do that is through this nifty search control. So I can type in anyone's name in here, and I can quickly zero in on that individual, and I can change your permissions if I want. I can also use this filter control over here, where I can filter to individuals or people that are external to the tenants, and I can also filter by individual permissions. And so one other thing that I can also do is, let's say Arwa and Michaela and Cami all have edit access, and I want to change things around for them. So I can just select them and then change their permissions, and I can basically bulk edit permissions on a number of individuals. And so now they can only view the file. So that's pretty cool. All right, so for the last thing I want to show you in this area, it's for the real power sharers out there. There's sometimes when you have a document and you really need to just lock it down. Maybe you need to password protect it, or you need to make it available to an individual or a group for just a select period of time. And so for that, we have a feature called Other Sharing Links. And so I will choose this option to create a new sharing link. And in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and share it with Jason Moore, who we all work for. He's a nice guy. And I'll go ahead and hit enter. He's outside of this organization. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just give him 24 hours, because you never want a VP to have too much access to your document, right? So I'll go ahead and create that. And then what you'll notice inside of the sharing dialog here is there's now an area that says Other Sharing Links. And that link now shows up there, and I can manage it. And incidentally, this area for Other Sharing Links, if you think about, you might have documents inside of your organization right now that have a lot of granular permissions. Other Sharing Links is how we're going to guarantee backwards compatibility with all of your content, so none of this breaks when we move to this new environment. So with that was a little bit of a tour of everything that we're building on the sharing side. And I want to switch back to the presentation and just cover a couple of things. One, there's a ton of content here that you'll want to check out. That this will help you and your organization get ready for this new sharing model as we move closer and closer to release. And with that, let's talk about a different scenario. Let's talk about a scenario that's almost the antithesis of sharing. It's like when somebody leaves your organization. It can be highly disruptive to your team's flow. Does anyone know what this email is? Okay, it's fine. You wouldn't. This email it's actually pretty bad. This email is the email that managers get when someone in their organization leaves. And it's up to the manager to do something with that former subordinate's OneDrive. And if you think about it, right, if they don't do anything, that OneDrive eventually gets deleted. And then when that happens, it can be incredibly disruptive if that person had a lot of files that were shared across the team. So let me show you how we're making the transfer ownership experience better. Okay, so let's switch back. Okay, so in this instance, I'm playing the part of Kevin, who is a very conscientious manager who just had Jay, a former member of his team, leave. So the first thing you'll notice is that Jay, I now get an email for Jay leaving, and it's very loud, it's very hard to miss. It's, if I don't do something, it feels like the world might end. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on View Files. And now it's going to take me to a view of Jay's OneDrive. Okay, so there's a lot of files in Jay's OneDrive, and I may not know as his manager what's important here. So I can actually click on this shared pivot, and I can see all of the documents that Jay had shared out with other folks inside of the organization, right? So here, I'm going to go ahead and select, let's say, 2 documents for the sake of this demo, and I'll click Move. And it brings up the Move dialog. And one thing I'll direct your attention to is at the bottom, this checkbox. It says, keep sharing with the same people. All right, so I will go ahead and move this to a document library, and I'll just move both of those documents there, and boom, those documents are moving. The people that had access to those documents still have access to the documents, so nobody's team flow is interrupted. But you might ask, well, how would people know that a file got moved? And in that instance, I'll switch to Katie Lee's inbox here. And Katie, who had access to those documents, will actually get this email that says, hey, Ken Smith, the manager, just moved some of these files that I was using to a different location. And so that's how you'll know your flow is not interrupted. Your team can go continue and save the world effectively. All right, so let's switch back here to the presentation. And OK. Transfer ownership is available today. It just launched, I think it was last week. And a little bit of a plug for SyncUp. We had our latest episode just released yesterday, and we had the PM that was responsible for delivering this feature on. And so if you want to know more about transfer ownership and all the things that we were thinking about, all the things that we thought about when we were making the feature, please tune in. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Arwa, who's going to talk about personalized intelligence and OneDrive.
Thanks, Arvind. Awesome. With Copilot, OneDrive becomes your daily work partner, getting you to wins that truly matter. Thanks to the magic of AI, it's like your files gain superpowers, saving you time, sparking ideas, and helping you and your team be more productive. I'm going to show you 3 ways in which Copilot and OneDrive make this real. 1, it helps deliver actionable insights, keeping you accurate and helping you get to the information you need in that particular moment. 2, it accelerates team performance by reasoning over your team's shared files. And 3, it serves as a thought partner, helping you go deeper into your task and get to impact quicker. So let me demo this for you and show how this is real. Awesome. Now let me set the stage. It's Ignite Week, and you all know this well. It means incredibly busy days, a ton of great conversation. And for us in the OneDrive team, it also means a lot of questions about OneDrive. This will be true throughout the week, but I want to make sure I'm ready for booth duty tomorrow. Let me show you how I'm going to use Copilot and OneDrive to do just that. So here I'm going to navigate to my files, and I have a folder here where my team and I have created some customer-facing content. Here you'll notice a few blog posts, you'll notice help documents, and in particular, you'll notice our customer office hour decks. By the way, as an aside, if you haven't had a chance to join us for customer office hours yet, this is a monthly series that the team hosts to talk about key topics and answer all your questions. So please do check it out if you haven't had a chance. But for now, here's this document, this PDF I see on Sync Ideal State. It's a topic that we get a ton of questions about, and I want to make sure I am well prepared. So here, I'm going to select the file and go to this nifty Copilot button, where I can see all of the Copilot actions I have at my disposal. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and hit Summarize this file. I want to walk away with the salient talking points that really matter and that I need to understand. So we'll give Copilot a couple of minutes here. And awesome. It's given me some of the roadmap agenda and updates, but this is the key content that I really was focused on, OneDrive Sync Ideal State. This is exactly what I need. I'm going to close this out, but if you are interested in Sync Ideal State, Gaia is going to talk more about it in just a few minutes. Okay, another topic that has a ton of attention is Add to OneDrive. And the questions we get more recently are around how to sync down document library content using this particular feature. And so let me show you how I'm going to select the file and create an FAQ. And what I'm hoping Copilot can help me with here is figure out what the most important questions and answers about this topic are. Okay, in a couple of seconds, you can see that it's given me a nicely curated set of questions and answers that I should remember for each of these. This is perfect. Okay, I'm going to close that out. Now, one of the favorite questions we receive, my favorite, is, hey, what's new with OneDrive? What's been up with the team? And so I want to show you how I'm going to prepare for this one and do our team justice. Here are two OneDrive blog post drafts that we published both last year after our October event and this year, last month, in fact, after our OneDrive event. And what I'm going to do is get Copilot to compare these two files for me. And here, I'm really looking forward to it telling me what the difference between the two are and what is new in 2025 that was not new and that was not available in 24. And here it's giving me this nice tabulated format. And if I focus on this 2025 column here on the right, I can see it's talking about some Copilot innovation, collaboration, sharing with the introduction of the hero link. That's absolutely right. And in terms of what's next in the roadmap, I see things here about smarter search, which is absolutely true. The team is working hard on that. Okay, I think this is going to give me the top 5 points I need for booth duty. And I am so glad to see how busy the team's been as well. Okay, now while I'm showing you how to derive key insights, here's one more feature I want to show about how Copilot helps with making the sharing flow more seamless. Now, I'm going to select this blog post, and I'm going to add my marketing partner to make sure she can review it and keep me honest on this content. Now, the thing I really want to highlight here is this button called Add a File Summary. So let me click that and see what it does for us. It's composing a summary for me. Okay, I am going to show you my pre-populated version of that, where, you know what, even Copilot needs a coffee break during Ignite Week. But here it's given me the summary for the file. So without any work on my side, when I hit add, here you go, when I hit add, Kayla on her side, when she receives the email notification, she knows exactly what's in the content and knows how to plan for her time for what it is that I'm looking for. Okay, perfect. Now, while everything I've shown you has been on OneDrive Web so far, in a few minutes, Gaia is going to show you Copilot on Windows and Mac as well. However, I want to spend the next few minutes introducing you to the power of Files AI right in your document libraries with SharePoint Knowledge Agent. Let me show you how. Here I'm going to go to a document library, and I'll go right to the site so I can show you how this is real. I'm going to navigate to this file, and this first file right here contains all of my customer information who I want to meet this week while I'm at Ignite. And right here at the bottom, you'll notice this entry point to the SharePoint Knowledge Agent. And the first thing, actually, let me go ahead and select that again. The first thing you'll notice is that it contains some of the same features for file intelligence that I just showed you in OneDrive, now available in document libraries. But the thing I will highlight is asking it a question. And what I want to do right now with the prompt I just gave it is ask it to tell me which are the top 3 customers I really need to pay attention to this week based on the information it can see in the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, it's analyzing the various information. We'll give it a couple of seconds here. I'm sure you're all doing fine, but Copilot definitely does test my okayness with awkward silences. Okay, here are 3 accounts that it's given me based on customer segment and the particular follow-up required. Awesome, that gives me what I need for now. I'll close that out, but I will share that was really, truly a sneak peek. If you're interested in more about document libraries and the power of AI in SharePoint, do check out the SharePoint breakout session on Thursday morning at 8:30. All right, back to my OneDrive. Okay, for this next section, I would love a little audience participation. So with a show of hands, how many of you have ever written a self-assessment or a self-review for yourself as part of your company's annual review process? Okay, see most hands up, and if you haven't raised your hands, I think you're lying. But 2, okay, keep your hands raised if you've done both that, and you've ever written a piece of feedback or a piece of review for a peer of yours, a colleague of yours. Okay, tons of hands still, what I thought. Okay, 3, last question. Keep your hands raised if you've done both of those things, and you've ever, as a manager, written a note of appreciation or a review for someone on your team. Okay, I still see some hands. I'll move on from this audience participation, but keep your hands up if you would like a little bit of OneDrive swag. And Fanny here is going to pick 3 people to give our famous beanies to. Thank you for that. Now, I am in the same boat, and as you all know, we get these requests for write-ups when we are the most busy. Now, every year, the OneDrive team hosts an award ceremony of sorts where we give recognition to various members of the team for their special sauce. And because I happen to be a fantastic manager and Arvind here has agreed to be my demo subject, I would like to nominate Arvind for an award, just recognizing how awesome of a teammate he is and how he uplifts the entire team. Now, in order to do this, I would love to show you and introduce you all to Copilot agents in OneDrive. Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning by creating a new Copilot agent right in front of you. We'll call it the Arvind agent because I want to be able to do things with this, not just today as part of this demo, but in the future as well. I'm going to customize this agent to maybe have a tone that better matches mine. And the thing I really want your attention on is this Sources tab as part of the agent creator, where I'm going to select OneDrive files. Pay no attention to that. It just means it's working code. And here I'm going to navigate to my files and my Arvind folder. I'm going to select all. Maybe I'll leave out this project file, but here's a bunch of Arvind-related files on his self-assessments, my manager reviews, some peer reviews that I've received for him. And I'll hit select. And you can see the various files that are now associated with this agent. I can come back here at any time and add more files, or even add a SharePoint URL to it to ground this particular agent. For now, let me hit create. And I'll ask to chat with that agent. Now, what you just saw is me creating an agent that is specialized in the topic of Arvind's career. So now that I'm asking to chat with it, it took me right into the M365 Copilot app. Awesome. And here you'll see this agent in my left nav. I can pin it at any time as well, so it's always available for me to come back to. But today what I'll show you is how I'm going to prompt this agent to do the write-up, the nomination write-up that I need. So I'm going to ask it to write a short paragraph for me and convey the tone and content that I want in it. Okay, it's told me Arvind lifts the team through a rare blend of strategic clarity. Wow, Arvind, I think this is true. But the thing I want to do next is customize it and make it more personal. And so I'm going to ask it to add 3 quotes from his various pieces of peer feedback and add it to the end of that paragraph in bullet points, because I am a fan of bullet points. And here it's given me a really nice paragraph, the same one in fact, and it's added these particular quotations. Great, I'm almost done. But we know every great award needs a good name, and I am truly not creative with names, so I'm going to get Copilot's help with this. Okay, so it's given me 3 names: the Spark Award, the Copilot and Cookies Award, that one's new, and the multiplier medal. Okay, I like number 3, that's what I'm gonna go with. Okay, now for a task that would usually have taken me hours sifting through a bunch of content and thoughtfully writing down a note of appreciation for Arvind, I am now done with this task in a matter of minutes, maybe even seconds. All right, so what did we just see? We saw how Copilot helps deliver actionable insights, accelerates team performance, and serves as a thought partner with features like summarize, compare files, create an FAQ, a feature I didn't get a chance to show you today, but it's one of my favorites too, audio summaries, so you can gain insights while you're on the go, Copilot agents, and of course, SharePoint Knowledge Agent. I hope you'll give these all a try today. They're all available either in GA or in preview rolling out in the next few weeks. With that, I'm excited to call on stage Gaia, who's going to walk us through how OneDrive is always working for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Arwa. OneDrive is built to be always on and always ready, so you can work from anywhere, find what matters fast, and deploy with confidence. Now let's see that in action with some demos. I'm going to start here on my Mac. Awesome. One of the most consistent pieces of feedback we hear from our Mac users is that OneDrive doesn't quite feel at home on macOS, and we're changing that. That starts up here on the top right with the new OneDrive icon, which looks and feels completely native to macOS, giving you instant insight into what OneDrive is doing. If I click the icon, you see the new OneDrive Activity Center, our liquid glass experience built to feel fluid, modern, and consistent with any other native Mac app. I can immediately see that OneDrive is fully backed up and synced with the green check mark. And if I want to see more details about which files have been recently uploaded or downloaded, I can click here to see the detailed feed. Now, Copilot is built right in as well. I can go here to this file I was working on recently and open this menu. And right from here, I can ask Copilot for a summary or ask it a question about the file, just like Arwa demoed before. Now I'm going to go back here, and I have these 3 files on my desktop. Thanks to the power of Known Folder Move, or KFM, these files are backed up to OneDrive. For example, if I right-click here, I can see all of the OneDrive actions right here ready to go, like share and copy link, so I can use the beautiful new share experience Arvind demoed earlier. Now I'm going to show you one more thing in the Activity Center by just simulating an error by adding a space here to this file name, which is not supported. Immediately, OneDrive shows me an error, and I can go here. It gives me an explanation of what the error is and an easy way to resolve it. Awesome. I'm going to switch over now to my my Windows machine. Now that I've shown you the cool new experience on Mac, let's go to Windows, and you can see those same 3 files I had on my desktop on my Mac machine here on Windows as well, thanks to the power of Known Folder Move. I'm going to go to File Explorer Home, where that brings together all of your OneDrive and SharePoint content so you can easily access it from your desktop. I have recommended files, recent files I've accessed, favorite files I've favorited across the M365 ecosystem, and files that were recently shared with me. If I go here to the Favorites tab, notice the marketing strategy doc that Arvind showed earlier. And if I hover over it, I see this new Copilot button. I'm going to click on that, and immediately I can ask Copilot a question about the file, like the next steps for the marketing doc. And just like that, Copilot will tell me what I should do next to help Arvind with this doc. Let me close this. OK, now let me click on Arvind's profile picture. That opens the people card. And sorry, Arvind, doesn't look like you've been promoted to president quite yet. You can also see the files that we collaborated on and our recent conversations. And then if I go to the OneDrive node here, I can right-click on this file go to the OneDrive menu, and you'll see we now have icons for all of the OneDrive actions, so they're really easy to distinguish between them. We've also added the Copilot actions, so they're really easy to access from your desktop. OK, now that I've shown you what's new in File Explorer, let's go to the browser. We've redesigned the document library experience to be faster, cleaner, and easier to navigate than ever before. It builds on the familiar OneDrive UI, but brings really and highlights the superpowers of document libraries, like custom views and metadata. Here, I have this simplified command bar with this single creator upload button designed to be simple and efficient. Here, I'm in the All Documents view, but I can see all of the custom views here with these pills on the top left, and I can easily switch to another view, like this Process Swim Lanes view here, which I've customized with these beautiful cards for each of the documents. I'm going to go here into the Reviewed and Ready view, and here you can see the filters that are applied to the view immediately when you get there. I can hover over the filters and see which field they're applied to. So in this case, it's filtered to documents with status reviewed or ready for publication. I can click one of these to remove it, or I can tap clear to remove all of the filters at once. Now, since I changed the filters, you notice that it says unsaved changes up here, letting me know that I've changed the view. And if I click here, it gives me some options to save the view as a new view, rename the view, or reset all the changes so it's back to where it was when I first started. Awesome. Now, since this is a document library I use every day, and I want to make sure I can access all of these files from anywhere I use OneDrive, I'm going to go ahead and click Add Shortcut to OneDrive. One click, and I see this confirmation toast letting me know my shortcut is ready to go. I'm going to click here, and you'll see that new shortcut here in the browser. And then you saw a Windows notification telling me it's also ready for me to use here on Windows. And you can see that right here. We've updated the naming scheme for shortcuts so that they always have the site name and the folder name so that it's super clear where the shortcut is coming from. And now I want to just reorganize my OneDrive a little bit. And I have this My Shortcuts folder that I've typically put all of my other shortcuts in. And so and I made it purple just so I can easily distinguish it with colored folders. I'm going to drag this shortcut into that folder and give OneDrive Sync a couple seconds to sync that up to the cloud. And then I'm going to refresh the browser window. And as you can see, the shortcut is no longer in the root of my OneDrive, but has moved here into the My Shortcuts folder. Now, there's one more thing I want to show you. If I go back to this My Shortcuts folder, you might have noticed this blue folder called Very, Very Large Library. I'm going to right-click on it and select Properties. And while it finishes counting the files, I'm going to move it over here. And this is your last opportunity to win some OneDrive swag. So this should be an easy one. How many files does OneDrive Sync support today? Yes, that's correct. 300,000, a number I know very well because it comes up all the time, and I'm sure many of you do as well. Let me pull this back up, and hopefully it's done counting. It's almost there. Awesome. So I'll highlight it here because it's tiny. But yes, 500,000 files. I'm excited to announce that we're launching a private preview of 500,000 files in OneDrive Sync today. And I'll share more details in a sec. Now let's go back to the deck. Now let's recap what you just saw. With the new OneDrive experience on the Mac, we've made it truly feel at home on macOS. The Liquid Glass Activity Center delivers a modern native experience with Copilot built right in. We're also extending the Liquid Glass UI to other surfaces like confirmation dialogues like the delete one shown here on the screen. And we're making changes under the covers on the Mac to make OneDrive the most performant and most reliable it's ever been. On Windows, we've made it easier to find what you're looking for quickly. And File Explorer Home brings all of your relevant people and files to you right to your desktop, with Copilot right there to help you stay productive. The new document library experience makes it easier than ever to leverage the power of document libraries with metadata and custom views. And Add to OneDrive is front and center, bringing all of your shared content across all of your devices. Speaking of shared content, I know a lot of you have historically relied on the sync button to sync shared files in your organization. And our recommendation is to use Add to OneDrive instead. And while the sync button is still supported, if you're ready to fully transition over, we have this commandlet here on the slide that you can use to hide it in your tenant. And we recommend using Add to OneDrive because it's a more reliable and more seamless experience across all devices. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm excited to share the private preview of 500,000 files. If you meet the requirements here and you want to participate and give us feedback, I encourage you to apply with this QR code here on the screen. And I'll pause for a sec while people take pictures. Awesome. And one of the requirements is what Arwa mentioned earlier, the sync ideal state, which is our recommended way to deploy OneDrive Sync in the organization. That includes things like making sure your clients are on the production ring and up to date, enabling known folder moves so all your local files are protected in the cloud and Copilot ready, enabling silent account config so that users are seamlessly signed in, and making sure that the client can talk to the Windows notification service URL so that changes from the cloud sync down really fast. There's a lot more, and you can encourage you to take a look at the documentation that you can find at this QR code. And really, this leads to the best possible experience for sync, happier users, fewer support tickets, and a more reliable deployment. And now, to walk us through how to stay connected with our team, I'd like to welcome back Arvind.
Thank you, Gaia. Excellent. All right, so we covered a lot of stuff today. I just want to say, this week, you should totally check out more of these sessions. I think Arwa called out the SharePoint session on Thursday morning at 8:30. You don't want to miss that one. That one's really great. But all of these are really great, and so you should check them out. The other thing I'll say is if you want to stay in touch with the OneDrive team, we have a number of ways that you can do that, starting with our monthly office hours. Every month, just about every PM on the team shows up to this meeting. It's the best hour you can spend if you want to be a OneDrive expert. Sync Up podcast. You should like and subscribe. We talk about all kinds of crazy, cool, interesting things. It's a deep dive into what we build. And of course, the blog and the roadmap are your great resources to know what's coming down the pipe. Finally, if you missed our OneDrive fall event back in October, you can watch it here. We actually covered more stuff in that session because we actually covered stuff that was even further out. So things like search, all of that, that's coming. You definitely want to check that out. And yeah, I want to say on behalf of Arwa and Gaia and everyone that is worked on everything that you saw here today, thank you for coming. We hope you guys have a great Ignite. We hope to see you at the booth. Thank you.